hope this will last long enough. Okay, I think we are back.
Yeah. Man,
yeah.
This is nice segue. As I
yes.
told you, like 5 seconds ago.
5 seconds, yeah. So we talked about, yeah, let's talk about that.
About this, yeah, like for everybody, like hundreds of, like for every 100 of people, every one of these 100 people we are taking care about.
We're taking high goals here.
We are going to explain this shit.
Yeah.
I wanted you to talk again about because it's a very interesting topic, and again it's very interesting for me, and I think I can even learn more about the origins of XpressPads finger drumming, and what was the reasons behind it. We just scratched the surface a little bit in the previous video, in the first part. Now it's like, what are the different aspects of you deciding about creating finger drumming program for a MIDI controller for electronic musician? Like it's like a unique combination.
Okay, the extended version.
The extended version, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I had the idea back then in 2010, and that was it was a mixture of things that happened back then, because first of all I was coming off a big project which I worked on, and it was very exhaustive, and I had to have a break from working the regular stuff that I was working back then. And at the same time, I think I hadn't made enough money to have a break for a decent period of time, and therefore was able to think about other ways of, living and doing something meaningful. Because sometimes, to be honest, my other job, I mean, I like it, I have a passion for it. But, meaning is something different for me. And I wanted to, I always was a musician since my 14th age. And I wanted to do music again because I always felt good doing music. I felt the meditational component of music, when you grab an instrument and you play a chord and you play a melody over it, and you immediately you drift into this other world, and it's hard to explain to people who don't make music. Exactly. But maybe you can, probably every person has something that just makes him or her happy, and makes him or her completely focus on the thing that you're currently doing.
Yes.
And I always had that when I played guitar, and I was composing music as well. And back then with my metal band, I was also songwriter for this band. And the problem that I always had when I wrote songs was I was able to record them coming from, having a guitar track recorded, having a bass track recorded, and also having maybe another instrumentalist coming along and playing the flute, or the singer, shouting the song, shouting the track, But all those things where you needed a drum track, or actually you need drums for every song, most of the songs. But I figured out that with drums it's completely different, and it's not organic, because even back then, maybe 10 years ago, there were mainly drum loops around, and there were sample libraries with some drum sounds around, and either you were able to place all the little bits and pieces into a piano roll.
Yeah.
And this is probably the way how many people still program drums, especially electronic drum tracks. But when you play live music and you record songs for your live band, then you actually need to have more organic sounds, and you need to have more organic feel in what you do. And especially with drums, I thought, okay, it's not an option to have a drum kit recorded unless you are in a rehearsal room and you have some mics, but it always sounds crappy, right? If you don't have a good microphone setup and so on, and don't have a lot of knowledge about recording process itself, and you don't want to become an expert in record techniques. You want to be an expert in your instrument, in songwriting, So, and drums, I thought would be there must be another way, And then I searched about different options, and I found these pad controllers. And back then, I think there were the MPD 16, really very early device, and I think I don't even know if the 118 and 120. No, I really don't know the names anymore. But those the first arcade pad controllers, I didn't really like them, really not at all.
Okay.
And I also checked then Trigger Finger from M Audio, and I really liked this one. Pretty good pads, and you were able to adjust the velocity sensitivity or pad sensitivity.
So this was the first controller?
That was my first controller, and I still have two in my drawer. So it's a vintage device now, and you know, when you touch the rubber now, it's sticky, and you play it for too long, you have black finger, you know, tips, and but still, you know, I keep it for I don't know what for reasons, but I don't want to sell those. And then I really try to get along with the setups that you find on the internet regularly, which means that you have one sound per pad, so one kit piece per pad, or one articulation of a drum kit piece per pad. And when I assembled the kit as such on the pad controller, I really figured out that this doesn't work for me, you know, especially when trying to play more sophisticated stuff, and you know, hard to keep the rhythm going, and it didn't work for me. And then I thought about the effectiveness of having such a setup, and I thought, okay, you have 16 kit pieces, but you can't play a reasonable groove on it. Why not try to really you know, make it more effective and try to make it more understandable for the brain as well, because you know, if you think about such a layout, and you have to count time, and you do this with pretty cumbersome hand postures or finger postures, this doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel right, and it doesn't even feel healthy, especially when you hit the pads and you hit them for longer. You get stiff, you know, you have some get tired with your hands. And then I thought, okay, it would be more ergonomically reasonable to split the pads in the middle and mirror them, and therefore have just 8 kit pieces, but twice, you know, once on the right side, one on the left side. And then I placed the snare drum and bass drum, hi-hats, and the other rhythmic elements on the top. And then I really tried to figure out how to play realistic sounding drum grooves. And also what I had in mind was that, you know, if you think about rhythms in general, then you actually have only 2 types of rhythms. One is the binary groove, and another one is the ternary groove. And binary means that you can divide it by 2, and ternary means that you can divide it by 3. And so there's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and this would be a binary groove. And 1 and the 2 and the 3 and the 4 and the, which is a shuffle groove, a swing groove. That would be a ternary groove, right? So those 2 things. And then I thought, okay, if you always play with alternating hands, because you have the mirror technique, you know, you can go like that. Makes it, first of all, far easier to really gain speed, but it also helps you keep stable in your timing. So you really have these alternating hands, which help you keep time, but also make it much more easy for you to have natural hand postures. Ergonomically, it makes much more sense, you know, and you can play on each and every subdivision of the beats. You can actually play kit pieces at the same time with different fingers, you know, and that worked pretty well. And I realized it immediately, and I thought, okay, so this is something which has the right to be shown to a bigger audience, you know. And I don't know, that was really this moment where I thought, I have to write it down, I have to record the training steps which I do, and I started from that moment to immediately to record everything and put it later on into this XpressPads course. It's really, the red line is really what you can learn in the XpressPads course is actually my own way of how I learned it, because you know, I learned the technique while I wrote the course. And this is probably the key why so many people say it's so revealing or so accessible for people, because I've captured every step in my own process, and therefore I think people don't miss out on anything either. So.
Man, it's like it reminds me one more thing. Like we've been talking before about how easy it is to get the very visible, like results after short amount or after short time of playing with this technique.
Yes.
And I've experienced this myself. We've talked about this before, how fast I was following some different programs also, like Jeremy Ellis tutorials on YouTube. I followed some Tim Crocker tutorials on YouTube too, and this helped me to grasp the ideas. I struggled like with probably the same problems as I would be a drummer or learn how to play drums, because there wasn't the feeling of simultaneously usage of two hands at the same time. It was more of this, and this was syncopating the thingy. And since your method was like, whoa, I don't need to tap this hi-hat super fast with my hand, I can switch it and like do it slower, and the groove is still the same, and I can be more groovy with this one, not like try to tap this one, and the second one is on like only helping with something.
Yes.
And it was like, I think this one was of them because one of the most different things than the other programs then. How long ago it was? Like 4 years ago. Now you can see this. You can call it binary hand techniques, or how to
alternating
hand techniques. You can see it more often with the different pad layers, but still then it was like a revolution there, because nobody used it before like this in a proper like in an easy way, and it was like the easiest way to grasp it, and it still is. This is the funny enough, because it's like you got this technique, but they are not popularized enough, and there is still not a lot of tutorials about these things. So it's again like a new old school way, but still like very one of the most efficient one. How to learn.
Yes, I still believe it's. I mean, otherwise I put a lot of work in it, a lot of thoughts in it, and I really fine-tune things, and of course, I still think it's the most effective technique, which is there really, because because you're humble. Just because. No, just because it makes logically sense, and there's there's no faster way to this place than the direct one. And you can have different, everything where you have exceptions that you have to build into your technique actually slows down or increases the amount of processing power that your brain needs to do all the things. But with XpressPads, it's about getting away from the technical aspects and trying to just play things, thinking more about how can I make this groove a bit differently, and with alternating hands you can. You can alternate the timing as well by just hitting the non-dominant hand hits just a little bit later than straight, and this way you incorporate some kind of groove into it, or you can shift it even more until you get into a triplet feel, so like if you turn the swing amount from 50 to 52, 53, 55, and so this way you can incorporate it into the technique. And sorry, but I don't know if you can do this with a one hand or main hand technique, where you or even with two hands, where you do everything simultaneously, So
and it's there are we got exactly as you said. There are easier ways, smarter ways to do the same things, and like. We still have to learn what. Of course, when you play a drum kit, you use some of the techniques of alternating the hands. But I've never learned drums myself. But I was observing how the drummers work on their instrument to grasp some different approach to adjust them on my pad machine. So I was also learning from there some speed techniques and stuff like that. So some speed routines. There's this channel Dramio.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking a lot of their tutorials for a lot of things. I don't remember what was this, like how to match the groove mostly, and the speed of the hi-hats, trap hi-hats.
Sure.
And it was like a drummer approach again.
Yes.
And it's like when this program appeared to me, it was like, yeah, there are much simpler things. The technology is going forward.
Mm-hmm.
We figure out something like pad machines,
Mm-hmm.
like MIDI controllers, and then we have to reinvent for the purpose of this machine how exactly we should play it, how exactly we should use our fingers. We figured out this on piano like a long time ago, and it's worked. And the fingering is working effectively, like the one way and exactly the same way.
Yes,
Somebody figured out this shit like long time ago. I don't know even when. But now, since the controller came out, it's like I don't know how long, 10 years, maybe more, a little bit, 15 years, something like that. And so we need to learn how to play on this instrument in a different way.
Yeah, and if you think about it, I mean, the concept of 4 pads times 4 pads, it has been there for so long now, and all the new devices, well, not all, but most of, well, still the big devices, you know, the ones where you know they sell quite well, like Machine and the MPCs, the MPDs.
Yeah.
Or also, if you look at Push or
exactly the same,
or Launchpad, you know, they all are either 4 times 4 pads or 8 times 8 pads, which all are great for finger drumming.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So it seems like the standard of having so many pads in that arrangement on one device, it has survived the last 15 years. So why shouldn't it survive the next 15 years or next 50 years? Because all the people who have learned playing pads with that setup, why should they adopt another new thing now while everyone has these devices? Everyone is used to playing music with 8 times 8 or 4 times 4 pads, right?
And and it works for everybody, and it's like it's just a matter of finding the most beneficial and the fastest learning technique right now.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And also, I mean, if you think about, you know, I talked about actually sacrificing half of your pads in terms of just having 8 sounds instead of 16 that you used to have if you have a 4 times 4 pad setup. Actually, if you think about the fact that pad controllers have become so cheap by now, so that you can have a decent pad controller with decent pads, which is the most important part of a pad controller, right? For €100, $100. So what's the problem with buying a second one and therefore having all the 16 pads at your disposal? So having actually a complete, full, big drum set at your fingertips. So it's not. I think it's not an argument to, you know, not try to learn finger drumming if you are interested in that and per se. You know, starting with 1 pad controller and 8 kit pieces or 8 sounds, and then later on make a step up and go to 16 pads by just adding a second pad controller. You know.
Exactly, man. It's like,
and it's fun.
And it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
Whom am I telling that?
But it's still, we've talked about this before so many times, but it's still like when we talk about this thing, it's like, it is fun. Like you are assuring yourself, like, it is awesome, and like we have this tool, and we can like make music musically without the usage of an instrument, and we can argue if this is an instrument or not.
It is, for me it is, and honestly, you know, today still if you tell people what you're doing, you say, well, I play guitar or I play piano or I play bass, you know, but I hope that in 20 years or so, or maybe in 10, you can say I'm playing pads because I play pads because this is what so many more people will be doing going forward. For sure.
Yeah, for sure. Much more accessible, much more. The progress is going
absolutely
much faster.
And man, what I do usually is once per year, and it was just when the new year starts, I make my kind of XpressPads statistics, you know, where I just go through all the sales and record what the people said in the survey, and I see how many people play which kind of instrument, or if they didn't play an instrument at all before they learned about XpressPads and bought it. And I'm always happy about the people who start making music with XpressPads. So and this is their first instrument. I'm so happy about those people, really, because they consider this their entrance into the world of music.
Exactly.
Which is such an honor, really.
Exactly.
Such an honor.
And exactly, yeah, man. It was the same for me. So
actually,
it's like,
was it?
Yeah, I didn't even, I start to learn some piano at the beginning, but I was just using this for intuitively playing bass line and melodies. Okay. Not even like my laziness was too far then, far like a couple years ago, that I wasn't like, I can go through it without learning. No problem, man. You can cough, it's your house.
Please repeat your sentence, we'll cut it out.
I was just bragging about my awesome skills on piano.
Okay.
Basically this.
Okay.
It's like you use this the usage of it's so easy to have like fast results, and it's so empowering that you can really create a nice piece of music. You can have an interesting skill, which is different, and you can develop it relatively very quickly compared to playing an instrument. It's like, man, like the possibilities are open, like endless possibilities.
Absolutely, man.
And this started from pad machine, and it's guiding me now to learn piano more, to get it even like to get it more more into improvisation detail style kind of. Because with the pads, it was at the beginning. It's like, like learning an instrument. It's as we talked before. It's another like level of understanding the details in music and how the music can go in a different way, consciously, not just only by accident or hitting the wrong pad or
yeah. That's the expertise that you gain by making more and more music.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But this is the only way, like just to go through it, and like you see the results after a longer time of learning an instrument, but relatively. The pads are much faster, in my own experience, than the other instruments.
And if you think about the setups that, for example, Ableton with the push, and also, of course, Maschine. I don't know about MPC, AK MPC, but at least with Push 2 and with Maschine, you have these options to have different scales put on your pad controller and on the pads, just leaving out all the notes which are not part of the scale, making it easier for beginners to make music which sounds good, because you can't play any technically wrong notes, So I think this way, also the companies have made it much more accessible than years ago, and you can use pads as well as a kind of alternative to piano. You play the chords, you play melodies, and everything. It just fits nicely. So
and it's funny how it's combining the melody world with the drum groove world at the same time, because when you learn this groove patterns on the pads, you can easily upload some VST, which is music, which is on virtual instrument, and play the same rhythms with the melody.
Absolutely, and that's what you do, actually, right? You do it quite a lot.
It is, and it's like it's giving you a lot of like, wow, it's like. It sounds like a drum groove, but this is like a nice melody, and it's syncopated, and it's the triplets easier, much more. You can move through the pads easier with the same techniques. Like if you would like to play it as a drum kit, like you hit the piano there,
absolutely.
or guitar there with your stick. And you can play, you can try, but here you can do it with your fingers and everything at once. Man, so how to buy the program.
No. Thanks for the question. Actually, really. So
I wanted to really know it. And again, you were telling me this the first time, and the second time you are saying this to me. It opens I've learned extra 2 more things about this shit, and all of the details are very interesting.
Yeah, nice.
Because awesome. It's it's like with the podcast. I think if you have an opportunity to stretch the topic and give a wider spectrum of the information about the product you have, and about some in case of podcast about some group of knowledge about some topic, you can really get interested into because we are interested into these details of the things we are which are everywhere. Yeah. And it makes the things interesting because you see these are the people who have the same issues and questions and problems and small.
Absolutely.
And when you see a bigger discussion about these topics, this is why I'm listening to the workshops when I go. And it's during the Sample Music Festival, we've talked about this before, that it was it was too short.
Yes, definitely.
When you got so many people to talk about this, and it makes this a 3-hour interesting discussion, and it's half an hour, man.
Yeah, it doesn't give enough time to really shed light into all the corners that there are, right? And there are many of them.
Yeah.
Really
awesome,
good.
Man. Awesome, man. I'm glad that we could finally did it with in a video form.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm grateful for you asking the question. Actually, so very nice. Very nice.